Hello everyone and welcome back to Master Sight. Today we're going to have our game 4 of Kings of Winter. It'll be my EoD versus Travis Timm's Northern Alliance. So for those that don't know, Trav and I are practically brothers. So we both live in Omaha. We go to all the tournaments together. So we know each other pretty well, to say the least. So we're going to go over Trav's army here and then jump into the battle report. So Trav's playing fairly heavy infantry Northern Alliance, so a little different than what most people are seeing with Northern Alliance here. So he starts off with 5 troops of Dwarf Clansmen. Nice and cheap chaff for this wall of Huskarls. He has 4 regiments of Huskarls. He then takes 2 regiments of Thunderwolves, one with the Drunken Ram, the other with the J-Boots. He has a regiment of Snowfox. He has the Thane with the Rally Standard. He has a Lord on foot with the Snowfox upgrade. He has a Lord on Frostfang with Snowfoxes and the Pipes of Terror for Brutal. And then he has Harim. So total of 16 drops, 26 unit strength. So yeah, he's got a pretty tough army, and he obviously knows how to play it well. For those that don't know, that is Travis Timm. If you see him across the table, don't let that smile fool you. You're about to get tabled. Travis also was taking the Frost Monster, so here are our Game 4 rolls. Trav got Spell Ward 1. He actually rolled Snake Eyes for the roll, so he had to take Spell Ward. Definitely wasn't his first choice. And then for me, I believe I had the option of Wild Charge or Cloak of Death, so I took Cloak of Death. Initially, I wasn't too thrilled about it. I really want this Radiance of Life or this Rally. I haven't gotten either yet. And I feel like those work really well with my army, but as we'll see in the battle here, Travis doesn't have any wound recovery, so this Cloak of Death is actually going to be pretty important for this game. For game 4, we are playing Hold the Line, and basically it looks like this. So there are 3 zones to control across the middle. The left and right flank are worth 2 victory points, and the center one's worth 3 victory points. So here is our table. So this is after sides are chosen. I forget who chose sides, but it's pretty equal across. So you got impassable top left, bottom right. So pretty fair there. A obstacle jetting out from both impassables. The height 1 difficult is top deployment, bottom deployment. A hill on the far left, far right. And then the forests are central left, central right. These sticks that we put out there were loosely where the line was, the 2-foot line. They're not going to measure it'll be 18 from both sides, because the box to control is 1 foot by 2 foot for each of them. So I'm pretty sure the box to control is actually closer towards Trav's side of the board here, so more likely to like the edge of this forest on this side and across to like middle of this rock. It'll be almost to the edge of the forest here, effectively on my side. So again, the terrain-wise, this setup's pretty even. Both sides are fairly equal. So this is after deployment. Trav and I pretty much had the same idea. He has a lot of unit strength in all of his infantry that we need to control the middle. It's worth the most. and then neither of us can really split our armies effectively without potentially getting punished. So we each threw some of the faster units on the right and the left flanks for him. I have some better pictures coming up here, but I have some of my like my chariots on the left here. So my goal here, with this impassable, I want to use that as a kind of a anchor zone, so that I can control the center off of this and basically create a diagonal wall between both of these impassables. So I wanted to make sure that I could take out whatever's on the left flank here. So I have some heavier hitters out there. And then I just have a regiment of spears to at least address the right flank so that he couldn't just put a snow fox out there and just call it a day. Um, Main goal for this guy here, now that we see what we're up against, is I just don't want him to get these units around the building and threaten. I'm fine if he wants to push through the forest here with those units. Again, I'm going to try to create a diagonal wall and just sit in the middle with as much unit strength as I can. So a little bit closer up. So Trav's deployment here, starting from his far right, he's got his Snow Foxes, the Lord on Frostfang, one of the Tundra Wolves. I believe this is the one with the J boots. Then he has one, two, three, all 5 troops of dwarves, all 4 regiments of Huskarls, his Frost Monster, and then his 2 individuals, so the Rally one and the Inspiring. So it's actually very inspiring from the Lord, so he inspires everything. The Rally, I think he effectively hits everything. Maybe he's leaving one of these troops out, but I think he's pretty good about keeping everything in. And then he has the Aura Spell Ward to hit everything as well. So Trav's goal for the tournament was just these, like this whole brick here is tough to move. With Rally and potentially in his first game he got another Rally from the Frost Monster. So his Ascarls being with Fury a 17-19, like those things just don't go anywhere. And then the dwarves in front were like a 12-14 chaff for 75 points. So yeah, it's pretty nasty what he can do with some of these things. So and then on the left flank he put Harim and then the Drunken Ram Thunder Wolves out this way. So to answer left flank, I kind of saved a lot of these for the end of my deployment. So I put my Chariot Pharaoh, a regiment of spears. I have Horde of Guardians, and then I have one of the Scavengers back here. I then have Horde of Skeletons. I have the Monolith, Sepik Ray sitting in the middle here. My Frost Monster. I have a troop of mummies, the worm, which is facing straight ahead, obviously, the Soul Snare, Shobik, regiment of mummies, other horde of guardians, and the other regiment of scavengers, and then the regiment of spears on the far right. So first turn, Trav gets the roll off, so he takes first turn. So he pushes up pretty aggressively over here. I think Haram moved almost as fast as he could. And then the rest of these guys, some of them were in difficult terrain, so he just moved up the 4 inches that the dwarves could to keep his battle line. And then on the right, he moved up pretty aggressively, knowing that he has the advantage here. But those skeleton spearmen affect everything except for the tundra or the snow foxes. But snow foxes coming off the hill, they're not going to get any thunderous charge. So my regiment of spears isn't inspired over there, so he has good chances of just killing it. But I'm hoping the spears can buy me an extra turn at the very least. So So this is what it looks like after top of turn 1. Um, and yeah, I'm pretty sure he put Harem within range for the charge, but he knows that Harem's just going to tank the charge and then he can double charge me. And so it's not a good option. So I actually want to get the charge off and have multiple. So I move up like so on the left. So spears just move forward. I nimble pivot and move the chariots to where he is exactly centered. So if he charges into these guys with either of these units or both of these units, I can choose which way my chariot goes, if he bounces to the left or to the right, because our leader points are matched up perfectly. And I do effectively the same thing here, but for the purposes of blocking the enslaved guardians. So the scavengers base are the exact same size, so I move them out here, and then my plan is to just surge these guys forward to get a little bit of more threat on them. So I really want to push and take out these units as quickly as possible so that my battle line that I want to form in the middle is going to be protected. If I start trying to form that battle line, then I can just get charged in the flanks and start losing stuff. I did give him. Uh, Actually, no, I pivoted. So these Tundra Wolves, I'm not in the front arc with the horde of skeletons here because of that pivot that I made. So that's why they're facing like this. Realistically, I want them to push forward further before I start turning, but I needed to protect their flank this turn. Everything else just kind of moves up a little bit here and there. I decide that there, I'm not terribly happy with this positioning of this horde of enslaved guardians. This regiment of mummies really isn't going anywhere, and even if they do, it'll be late in the game, ideally. So I having them behind the regiment of mummies as a counterpunch really isn't going to do much after I kind of see how this is forming out. So I actually utilize them as a threat over here. So I turn them to face out towards the spearmen, um, so that they can at least project threat. Because if he charges the regiment, or if he double charges, these guys can reach out and hit the unit. And if he doesn't break the spears, then I have a flank with it. So trying to project a protecting threat, but realistically, I don't actually want the horde of guardians out here. Um, so even if he charged in, I would strongly consider just not charging and maintaining that unit strength in the middle where I know I'm going to need it. So this is what it looks like after my turn 1. So the turn 2 for Trav here. Oh, I forgot. That's after movement for turn 1. I did get the surge, so I move them up. Get a little closer. So turn 2 for Trav. He decides that he was a little bit too aggressive on this flank, and he kind of realizes that he wants to delay this as much as possible now. So he's backing up with his guys, so that I don't have charge range with the chariots, and the enslaved guardians don't have range. It's just the scavengers that are in range for this turn. But he does continue to push up in the middle and create the line that he wants to create, which is somewhat similar to mine, just mirrored. And then he moves forward again to get better positioning over here. So, yeah, I mean, I'm in range to charge, but it's a bait. Definitely don't want to take that. So. After his turn 2, they're pretty quick turns so far. So my turn 2, I decide I need to get aggressive here. So I think this might even be after shooting. So close to it. I charge the Thunderwolves, so my Scavengers being height 3, I'm blocking the Thunderwolves from seeing any of my other units, so their Nimble is effectively worthless because they can't Nimble pivot charge around the Scavengers now. And the Scavengers even failed to do a wound, so they're gonna die because this was the one with the Helm of the Drunken Ram, so Thunder Charge 2 is gonna hurt. And then because Harim moved up too quickly the first turn, he was only able to back up to this position and keep this angle. So the angle, I was within his front arc initially, but then when I surged these guys forward, I was able to get out of the front arc of Harim. So I really like the positioning and how it's working on the left flank here so far. The center, just move up, get that line going that we really want. So, and on the right, just move in position. So I sidestep. Past 2 turns, I've sidestepped these spears, really just to project threat from the center unit because I don't want to move that enslaved guardian unit over because then I can't pivot back and come around the building this way. So right now where I am, I can pivot 90 degrees and move straight ahead without hitting the building. So that's as far as I really want to move with that unit here. But I'm able to project a threat out to something that charges the spears. And then I position the scavengers so that they can't get charged by anything because nothing can fit through this gap. And then he can't complete the charge here, obviously. So this is how it looks after my turn 2 is over. I should say my shooting for my Soul Snare, because he has the spell ward, it's going to be pretty ineffective throughout the game. But my target here, everything's height 2. And again, the Frost Monster, killing it and completing the other objectives gives a bonus point. So I start shooting at the Frost Monster, and I figure if I can get lucky and get rid of it early, then there's no more spell ward, and my shooting is going to be more effective throughout the later stages of the game. Frost Monster is also height 5, so I can see it over anything, but except for like Shobik. So, but it's pretty easy to get angles around Shobik, as you can see. So Trav's turn 3, he backs up Harim more. So he backs him up to where he's going to be in line. Right now, the Thunderwolves are slightly pivoted, but after combat, they can pivot and create an exact line. So that way, I'm not getting a flank charge on Harim with the Horde. And if I wanted to hit him in the front, I would have to utilize the surge to do so. And then he moves into the box. So right now, like I said, the box effectively is here. So it's just the dwarf troops that are in the box. I'm probably in the box with everything in the front of my lines except for the mummy regiment right now. So just doing a little dance here. And then he nimble maneuvers around into the flank of the spears. Again, just projecting a threat here. And after combat, he kills the scavengers as we expected because we didn't do the wound, so it's pretty easy for him to kill the scavengers. If I did strip his Thunderous, it's still fairly likely. I'm not inspired out here, but yeah, without stripping Thunderous, it's pretty much a guaranteed kill. So after turn 3, Trav's turn 3 anyway, this is how the board looks. So it's time to get to it. So what we do here is we charge the Thunderwolves, and then the Chariot character nimble pivots around and charges Harim. We run forward with the spears, basically just for backup at this point. The center, we try to make a makeshift wall. So my real goal here is to not actually break the dwarves. I want to utilize the dwarves as a buffer for not having to get into his Siskarls. And since his Siskarls are out of the box right now, it's not likely, but it's turn 3, so there's still 3 turns to go. But if I would be lucky enough to just maintain this for the next 3 turns, he might be able to get one of the Huskarls in. But realistically, I'm just looking to start kind of grinding down and make that wall on his half, so I have this room back here to keep my support pieces protected. So, and then on the right, my hand was kind of forced with Trav's positioning. So it's definitely a good move on Trav's part. So I decide let's try to kill the snow foxes. And then we'll just pivot to keep everything else in the front here. Yep. Over on the left flank, I do kill the Thunderwolves, and reform wise. So this is something that I see some people do incorrectly. Because it's a straight line, you want to just keep the line where it is here. So Harim is in my flank even if he withdraws. So there's no way that he can fit into the flank. If I were to overrun or pivot at all, then Harim can connect and complete the charge against these guys, getting the extra Slayer attacks and everything. So I want him to go into the Chariot because he's not getting the extra D6 for Slayer, and I know the Chariot has natural regen, so staying put is what I do here to pretty much guarantee myself a flank the next turn. In the center, I ran up the Frost Monster to get in range and start getting the Cloak of Death pulses. So all these dwarves and even his individual back here are taking that Cloak of Death damage. On the right, I fail again. I'm pretty sure I didn't do any hits, so not a good game for the Scavengers. So that's my turn 3. On to turn 4 for Trav. He has to go back in over here. So there is a couple of good moves on Trav's part. He set up his line excellently and kind of caught me by surprise with a couple things. So let's take a look at what those are real quick. So here, my thought with this charge here was I'm only height 2. He shouldn't be able to see me. He can't get the double charge. Well, looking at it, he is able to get a line to the front left corner from his leader point into this horde, and he had made it to where it's just going to fit nicely, just a slight pivot, and then boop, right in there. His dwarves have enough room. It is almost exactly perfect to fit right across there. So you look, that's exactly what he does. And then over here, he has the flank arc right here against Shobik, which it's not like I didn't know that. I knew that these things were in my flank, but I just was thinking of the old rules without the combo charges that have recently been updated with the last Clash of Kings. So him charging the front and the flank, these dwarves can just slide over to make the room. I wasn't thinking about that. I've used that a couple times already this tournament myself, but I definitely did not want to just give a free flank with Shobik here. So when this happened, it is a hindered charge, but definitely don't want to give flanks for free when possible. So that's what he does. He takes this dwarf unit in. He moved this one up to just kind of solidify the edge. and get out of the way so that he can do this charge here. Yeah, that's where we're sitting at here for the middle, and then the center. His snow foxes are only height 1, and they were on the hill, but so were the tundra wolves, so they could see over. Does the double charge here, just does the single charge here. Pretty expected. But what wasn't exactly expected was the kills. So again, hinder or not hinder, but affected by phalanx. So hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s with the 9 attacks, and with brutal. Effectively looking at 4 to 5 wounds plus the brutal. He needs like a 9 or 10 one time, and he gets it. I forget if he rolled well for the nerve or the hits, but I've seen these spearmen sit and tank a Frostfang Lord for 2 or 3 turns, and Trav was able to knock it out in 1 turn. So, but the good rolling stopped there because against Shobik he only did 8 wounds. So 40 attacks in the flank, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s. That's 10 wounds on average. So we rolled below, and then the dwarves in the front probably don't do anything. Um, they might get 1 wound to get lucky. So realistically, he should have been at 10 to 11 wounds on average. He did 8. I had already iron resolved at this point, so unlucky for Trav. So yeah. And then over here, Harim fought. I think he did 4 or 5 wounds. Yeah. So this is how it looks for bottom of turn 4 for me. I did get fairly lucky as well that the horde of skeletons survived. That the Huskarls are just scary, so they can potentially spike and just pick up a unit at any point. So, but yeah, I think I have a dozen wounds or so on this unit, but I definitely needed that to hold. Otherwise, that whole left flank here crumbles, and he has a Hiskarl that's just going to be free to do whatever it wants. Oh, and last turn I should say I moved the guardians forward, but the worm is actually facing towards the building, so that is my deterrent right now for the Frostfang Lord from coming around the building, and that's probably why Travis turned to face towards the center here. So over here on my turn, I decide the Chariot Lord isn't needed here, so all I do without withdrawing, I just turn and run 16 inches over here, and then I do the charge and charge. So again, tackling that flank how we wanted, so that's good. In the center, we just do a bunch of countercharging, and so we go back into the Huskarls. At this point, I'm just looking, and I want to kill the Huskarls, not only because they hit hard, but because they're the higher unit strengths. And the dwarves, especially these 2 dwarves, are really helping me by just being there so that the Huskarls behind them can't get in. So I countercharge the Skarls, countercharge here, I countercharge here. So I chose to countercharge here because the dwarves here, they can't get out of the way to where he can actually complete the flank charge if I don't kill this unit, which I likely don't. So his only option with the Skarls next turn would be to countercharge and hit me in the front. So that is why I felt safe in countercharging there. Yeah, and then move up, and we're facing towards the forest with the worms so that we can see through this gap if needed. Yep, he's just the right flank. So this is how it looks after my movement. And after combat on the left here, we kill Harem, just do a 180 and 180. In the center, so this was something, kind of looking back, that I wish I would have done differently. Um, I've been talking about the lines that I want to keep and want to kind of box his units out if possible. Use the dwarves as a shield for myself. Um, I should not have countercharged this troop of dwarves. If I would have simply just remained engaged and not countercharged, um, this troop of mummies is going to just sit there tanking the weak dwarf attacks for the rest of the game. By killing them, I'm opening up the opportunity for him to get the true heavy hitter in here. And I don't. I have this horde of enslaved guardians back here to kind of answer, but I really need them to answer and fill the hole once this unit dies, because I know that this horde's going to die. My healing focus right now is on Shobig, because he needs to live. So I've been all my drain life heals going there. My heal from Sevic Ray is going in there. So I could have just created that buffer and likely kept it there for the rest of the game. But because I killed that troop of dwarves, that's really going to open up an opportunity for Travis here on his turn. Yep, after all the combats, I don't break anything. It doesn't really matter if I waver anything. Everything has Fury for Trav. And this is Trav's turn of 5. So sure enough, he comes in. He takes the Lord into the back of Shobik. He countercharges the front of Shobik. He charges. He countercharges. This was also a really good move by Trav. So we'll see. The Chariot Pharaoh character is back here, and he has a flank on this Siskarl unit right now, and he has a flank on this Siskarl unit right now. But when they get in here, they're going to be lined up, so the only flank is this. He doesn't countercharge with the dwarves because this unit's already practically dead. He simply just backs up and protects his unit, also protecting himself because of the terrain. So just making that Chariot Pharaoh useless for this next turn. Um, Again, really good play, very smart decision. And since the Chariot Pharaoh isn't shambling, I can't even surge him into combat. So on the right flank, he decides the Snow Foxes have done their job. They're going to run all the way back here, and basically his goal. I'm not going to be able to get to this right flank except for maybe if I fly my undead worm over. But he also has a troop of dwarves in here, so his goal is to get these heavy hitters over into the action now. So yeah, after combat, he kills the horde as expected. Just stays put because he's protecting the flank of this unit here. He gets my mummies up to, I think it was 10 wounds, and they're at dash 14, and he rolls the 3. This is probably a key moment of this game here, because as I mentioned, I had the opportunity to not even give him a charge here, but since I didn't think it through, he's in here, and if he breaks this unit, that leaves 2 units unaccounted for to my 1, and I'm having to throw away units and unit strength left and right to just plug this hole. That mummy unit surviving is huge, and he doesn't break Shobik. I think Shobik healed up and life leeched down to like 1 wound. So a front charge and a couple more attacks from a character, he definitely should be fine. And then this mummy regiment against a troop of dwarves just isn't going anywhere ever. So bottom 5, I move. So my chariot character, I get him into the rear of as many units as possible to try and give myself options. I move these guys up. My goal is to skirt right by this and then get into the zone by turn 6. So I don't have any other surging to do, so I'm going to surge them the next 2 turns, try and get them in the center. The spears, they're out of the game. They're just going to sit in that sector. Center is just countercharging. Yeah. And fill that hole with the Horde of Guardians. Yep, I charge the character with the monster. So it's just a grind fest in the middle here. But after combat, Shobik, after 2 turns worth of hitting and 2 turns of Cloak of Death, I killed the Huskarl unit that was here. It's nice because this Huskarl unit had to turn to face the chariot, so I don't have that Huskarl coming at me, but I do have a Frostfang Lord and the Thunder Wolves with J Boots that are looking him down now. Yeah, but again, I've healed, I've life leeched, so I'm sitting fairly healthy, only on a couple of wounds probably at this point. And then I killed this dwarf troop, which I reform or I back up to where I'm not in the forest, so I don't want, so I don't want the Thunder Wolves into here, and then I keep the Frostfang Lord in the front. So unfortunately, I failed to break the Huskarls over here. I think I got them up to 10 to 12 wounds, something like that, but with the rally, I just wasn't able to break them. I was hindered, so not too out of the ordinary, but the big news this turn was actually my regen rolls. So after the 10 wounds I took, I Iron Resolve down to 9, and then I regen 6 wounds out of the 9, so I only had 3 wounds on me. And I was able to, I've been shooting the monster, able to pluck off 2 wounds off the monster, so I healed these guys, and their life leech got them back up to full. Yeah, so very happy with that, but we got to survive another round here of Huskarls, and they could easily do another 10 wounds, so we'll see. So top of 6 for Trav here, and this is what the board looks like before he moves and after. So he sells out for Shobik. The dwarves were in the rear, takes that. The monster in the flank, double fronts with these guys. Yeah, he doesn't charge with the dwarves. He just keeps them there. He's actually keeping this dwarf troop in the right side because the only thing I could get there is my undead worm. So if I flew the undead worm over, I negate his because he has the troop of snow foxes over there right now. So if it ended on 6, he wouldn't get this area. So he's keeping the troop over here so that he has 2 unit strength. So we're counting it up right now. He has, because, turn 6, so he'd have 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12. To my 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So right now, before combats and everything, Trav's winning the unit strength in the middle right here. So after combat, he breaks the horde of enslaved guardians. It was pretty good rolling for him on those guys, I believe, because they weren't injured. So dash 17, defense 5, it's well within the possibilities. But yeah, picking up that 3 unit strength is very big at this point. And then he kills Shobik, so yeah. So this is a whole cluster mess. He just turns the Frostfang Lord, and everything else is just sitting where it is here. But again, he fails to kill the mummies. So he did 10 wounds last time with just the regiment. He has the regiment plus the Lord now into here. So the Lord's giving him another 7 attacks. So 27 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s. And I think he did 8 wounds, and he rolled a 5. So that mummy troop is just MVPs at this point, going to stick around there for turn 6. Again, that's just pretty big here. So this is after shooting. So my enslaved guardians moved up. I think I needed like 3 inches to get them across the line. I surged with the monolith. I think I was just shy, so maybe I needed 4 inches. I got 3, and then Sebek surged them the rest of the way and shot them like 6 inches up here. So dwarves can have a flank if we go to 7, but I should be eliminating this unit because they are already at 11 wounds. We can see here. And I got a rear with the Chariot Pharaoh. Yeah, and then just charged in, basically to hold them up, block line of sights, prevent this troop from getting into the box. So my goal here was just doing some math. I also charged the flank of this troop. So if I eliminate this, it's 3 unit strength. And then the only other one I reasonably can eliminate is this troop. They are at 8 wounds already, so yeah, that's pretty guaranteed here. So that's 4 unit strength I can eliminate. He would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I would have 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 if I overrun the chariot. So yeah, it's looking good for me on 6 here, as long as I don't get some snake eyes, and I do not get snake eyes. So pick up that regiment, pick up that troop. Didn't expect to kill anything else. We're just kind of sitting there and rolling off for a potential turn 7. I had just reformed to keep the Thunderwolves in my front, but no turn 7. So this is the board state at the end of 6 and end of the game. So Travis controls the far right, I control the far left, that's 2 each, and I control the middle, so that is a 3-point victory to me. So in the blackjack scoring, I got a 14 win to 7 loss, and for controlling the center with the victory points, I think it was a +2, -2. But attrition was the exact same, so it was a 16-5 victory. Oh, and my shooting on the last turn, my Soul Snare shot his Frost Monster and picked him off. So I got pretty lucky with that. So the end of the game here, it was a 16-5. I got the 1 bonus point since I was able to pick off his Frost Monster at the end. So 17-point victory for me going there against Trav. So very happy with the results. Realistically, this game goes either way, and like I said, that mummy troop was probably the key turning point there. If that collapses, I think the next turn or two, Travis just takes off a unit each turn with that. So sometimes you get lucky, and I definitely got lucky in this particular game for that. So yeah, so 4-0 at this point. There's only one other person that's 4-0 going into the last game, so we know that we're going to have to play each other. So game 5 will be up here in the next couple days. And thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you in the next game.